I decided to make a cringy video today because I'm not at home right now, most likely. I'm pre-recording this, and right now I'm with my fiance, looking to buy a house, see the price range, and if we can afford something, so that we may start a family. But because I don't know the type of news that is going to be available today, I can't make something relevant, and instead I'm going to talk about something that I think a lot of people might like to hear. What is the secret of dating success? Because I used to be a late bloomer, as they say. Only after I finished law school did I finally manage to get into a proper relationship. I had some girls before and some relations before, but nothing serious. And I would have appreciated this advice that I'm about to give. It's not something that you probably heard before. Like, I don't know. But the first thing that really bothered me when I noticed some people that I consider to be hopeless is that when I announced that I'm engaged, a lot of people said, "Oh my God, V, this lady is above your weight category. Like she's out of your league." And it's this mindset that a lot of people need to get rid of. Because I used to have it as well. Like in my mind, there was this roadblock which would consider girls that I personally like, and this is completely subjective, by the way, because some of the girls I like were considered by others to be unattractive. But I had this roadblock in my brain which made me so that I don't approach certain girls that I consider out of my league. Or if I did approach a girl that I consider to be hot, I would act really weird. And it led to the point that the girls I didn't like, and this is a personal preference, this is completely subjective, but I don't like, I'm not attracted to girls that have small breasts. Like I can be friends with them, I can hang out with them, but I don't feel any attraction, nothing sexual. And I had like a couple of these girls that were constantly making suggestions and innuendos and trying to get me to ask them out. While the girls that I did like, the ones that I was into, considered me to be creepy, to be weird, because I was acting weird around them. I was constantly afraid not to blow it. So that's like my golden advice, okay? Just destroy that roadblock in your brain that there are girls out of your league. So how do you go around dating? It's kind of interesting because today it has nothing to do with how people dated in the past. I mean, you can still do it, but it's not advisable. I mean, both my father met my mother just like my grandfather met my grandmother at the workplace. Yeah, you do that today, chances are you're going to get a lawsuit. Especially if you go on to someone that's a little bit more on the left side of the spectrum. No, people tend to use now social media from my personal experience or date at clubs. Now, if you're the type of person that has a lot of friends and is very outgoing and you can find the courage in order to approach a stranger that you've never met surrounded by 10 of her other friends at a club, then you obviously don't need my advice. In fact, why are you watching a dating video? No, like I'm giving this advice for the type of person that I used to be when I was at law school. The type of person that's very shy, very withdrawn, doesn't really have the courage to talk to strangers type of thing, which is not a good thing to have as a guy. As a woman, if you're like that, you will find relationships. As a guy, if you don't have the courage to make the first step, you're not going to be approached, okay? So a lot of people use social media. I don't really recommend Tinder, by the way. I feel that Tinder is a little bit dehumanizing. It's almost like you put yourself up in a grocery store and you only have like one image in order to make an attraction. And the competition for men is quite high. I do not suggest finding a date on Tinder, but you can still have it there. If you want to have Tinder, then have like a really good profile, something that's funny and witty on the main page, and maybe you're going to hook up with someone and you're going to have a conversation from there. But again, no, my personal preference, and I have gotten a lot of relationship this particular way, is using Facebook. Facebook is perfect because you have that page with the likes, and you start to know everything about a person just by looking at the likes, and you can figure out if you're going to be compatible with someone just by seeing the type of music they like, just by seeing the type of books they read, and you can have a general idea on how to start the conversation and maintain a conversation with that person. So yeah, if you're uncomfortable going out clubbing and asking random strangers to talk to you, then Facebook is definitely the next best thing. So what you want to do is you want to join one of these groups that happen to be in your town, but make sure that it's something you're also interested in. So for example, your university group or some bicycling group. There's plenty of them. I remember joining a group that was about taking animals from the streets and trying to find a home for them, like putting them up for adoption. And I was part of that group until people started being crazy and insane, but that's a story for another time. What's important though is that you become active in that group and try to be friendly. Like, don't focus that you're there in order to pick up chicks. No, like, just make friends, make connections. That's a very important thing in life, believe it or not. The more friends you have and the more acquaintances you have, the better it is for you to be able to find a job. If you have like a large social network, then chances are one of the people you know is going to go like, oh yeah, I know John. He's a good guy. I'll put a word for you at my company if you put your resume there. That's how it works. So try to be friendly. Don't be weird. Don't be a creep. Join something that interests you. And then look at the girls that are in the group. And the ones that you like, again, go to their like page, see what they're into. And if they happen to be in the same things that you're into, spark a conversation with them. Just hit them up with a message. Don't think that it's rude or anything like that. Just contact them and try to have a conversation about the things you have in common. And if you do that to, I don't know, 20 girls, eventually at least 5 of them are going to start talking back to you. And out of those 5, chances are maybe one of them, or at least one of them, is going to be interested in you and have this conversation. And that's really all it's it. It's just really easy to have a conversation with someone that you know what they're into and you have things in common than it is to have a conversation with a person that you have absolutely nothing in common. So that's my dating advice. And also don't be a creep, right? Like if you notice the woman isn't responding to your messages or she's not interested, then just move along. Like you have to learn to do that. It's very important that you don't get laser focused and that you act like a creep. Because if you're like a creep, then they're going to talk with their friends and everyone is going to know you're a creep. So don't do that. But regarding the idea that you need to have money in order to have a girl, yes and no. Like for example, I wanted to have a girl that is a gold digger. I legitimately want a gold digger, believe it or not. And it's because I get like this rush of dopamine and pleasure when I provide something to a person that I love. It's kind of weird. I don't know how to explain it, right? But I feel good when I give something to a person that I like and I see the happiness on their face. It makes me feel good. Unfortunately, every single girl that I have been out with, every single one, they don't like that. Like they don't. I think maybe it's a Romanian mindset or something, but they don't enjoy when you give them stuff for free. It's almost like I wouldn't say you're insulting them, but like they feel cheap. I guess the ones that I went out with. Maybe there are that don't feel like that. So that was a legitimate problem for me. But the only time where I would say money is important is when you want to go out with a girl that's a lot richer than you. Like, let's say she's got some rich father, or she is working at a place where she's making a lot of money. The problem is that these girls are used to having a certain lifestyle. They want to go on vacation and travel abroad every summer. They go to expensive clubs. They go to expensive restaurants. They have expectations of what their life should be like. And even if, let's say, you find one that doesn't want you to pay for her, like she wants to pay for herself, the problem appears when you can't afford to pay for yourself to go on that trip to Bahamas or on that trip to France. And you're now holding her down because she can't go without you because she's in a relationship with you. You can't afford to go every night to expensive restaurants and clubs. So you're now lowering her lifestyle, and you will see that they get upset when that happens. And yeah, like if you want to date someone that's really wealthy, unless she's willing to pay for you so you can keep up with her lifestyle, you're not going to have a lot of luck. And this is assuming you want a meaningful relationship, like long term. But the most important thing, and this is like the most important, like when I noticed that my romance changed around, and there is no cure for this, when you have your own place. Like, I'm sorry to say this, but when you have your own place, legitimately, you will get more girls interested than not. And it kind of makes sense in a way because if the girl has no place of her own and you don't have any place of your own, when are you going to make some coochie coochie? Like, when are you going to make some sparks happen? Like in the public park, like she probably doesn't feel comfortable having elderly women eyeing you as you're making out with her. You know, like what I'm trying to say is that you need either your own car or your own place, even if you pay rent. It doesn't matter. Like just have move out of your parents' apartment. Basically, that's what it is. Make sure that you have dreams and ambitions and plans for the future. This is also very important. Because if the woman is interested in a relationship with you, like she wants to have that stability. It's like, okay, well, the guy is at this university, he's going to become this thing, and he has like long-term goals and aspirations. Whether if it's someone that's like, what do you want to do in the future? Oh, I don't know. What are you interested in? Oh, I don't know. Would you like to be next to a woman like that? Like, be honest. Yeah, like, would you find that interesting and attractive in another person? And this is like what you need to do. You need to put yourself into the mindset of a woman. Like, imagine we live in this reverse society where men act like women and women act like men, okay? And you as a man, you can choose between all these girls. Like, you just go on an app and you have like these various girls lined up. Every time you flick yes, like you instant connection. You're the one that decides, you know, whether or not something happens between that interaction. And you have pretty girls and you have ugly girls. And then you look for girls with a house and ambition and aspiration, and you have a huge list of also pretty girls that are like that. Why would you ever choose a pretty girl that doesn't have a house? Like, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. It's a reality. You need to get out of your mother's basement. It's kind of funny, you know, like I love this expression, get out of your mother's basement. First of all, it implies that you live in a place that's rich enough to have a basement. Like most of my friends live in a tenant building. Like if you're in a city, and we don't have a basement here. So we don't have one of those gated communities with lovely houses that can afford the basement. But secondly, it used to be the expression get out of your parents' basement. Now it's your mother's basement. So it already assumes that your parents are divorced. It's the final thing is that this expression came from a time where I believe it's an American expression, and it came from the idea that one person, the father, could afford with one income to have an entire household and support the woman and the 2-3 kids that they would have with one income. It's impossible to do today. But in that situation where where one income was allowing someone to be so wealthy, then someone that chose to stay with their parents was mostly a choice. Like they didn't want to go and find a job. They just wanted to be dependent on mommy and daddy for the rest of their life. And yeah, that was incredibly unattractive. But nowadays, getting out of your parents' home is not a choice. It's very difficult. Like I had a lot of problems trying to find a job to begin with. And even then, I went to university and med school, had to pay for it. Very difficult. So no, it's understandable. It's very difficult to escape your parents' home until you're 20 something. But here's the good news, okay? Like here's the thing that if you're a guy like me back at law school where I couldn't get any relationship and no girls would consider because I did live with my parents at the time. Here's the good news. Most women, as you probably notice, and you notice this if you're a shy guy, they're usually the center of attention. They usually get things that you as a young man don't get. You know, they get invited to all these parties, they get all this attention. It seems like they are the core of most social interactions. And this is especially for the beautiful girls, right? I mean, they're rarely single. They have guys lined up, willing to give them attention. They probably have a couple of guys as friend zoned and whatnot. But here's the thing. when you grow up a little bit more and you're approaching 24, 25, and if you manage to get a stable job and you manage to make a decent income, you're going to notice that things change. As the girls age and cellulitis steps in and they don't get as much attention as their younger counterparts, you as a man will start to get more attention. You will become this center of the social interactions. And while the girls get to decide whether or not, I guess, sex happens, when you grow older, you get to decide whether or not a relationship happens. And then you start to get some power, some social power. So it's almost equal in a way because it balances up. Like when you're young, women have most of the social interaction on social power, and when you go older, the men start to having this, and probably this is why a lot of women feel discriminated in a way because they feel like they deserve the things they used to have when they were younger and they were partying and whatnot. And now they see that, well, they don't have it anymore, and they look around and it's like, oh, men have it, blah, 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 blah. And I think like that's one of the reason you see feminists claiming that they're being discriminated when in fact it's just the wheel turning. And then as you grow older, you're not the social interaction regardless of what gender you are. Like when you're 50 or 60 or something like that, unless you're a millionaire with a yacht. But yeah, this is my low IQ intervention on this. This is genuinely what I think about dating. Let me know if my advice managed to help you in any way. And if it did, I will see you all in the comment section.